My name is Emily West, and 3 hours before the most important sales demo of my life, my boss secretly deleted every single customer record I'd spent 8 months building. He thought he'd destroyed everything. He thought I'd walk into that boardroom empty-handed while he claimed my work as his own. What he didn't know was that I'd recover all 1,000 records in just 2 hours and turn the tables on him in front of the entire executive team, right when he thought he'd won. The fluorescent lights in Nova Reach's sales floor had always given me headaches. But that Tuesday morning, they seemed particularly harsh. I'd arrived at 6:30 a.m., 3.5 hours before my presentation to the board. 8 months of blood, sweat, and countless late nights had led to this moment. My customer relationship intelligence system wasn't just another database. It was a revolutionary approach to B2B client management that could transform how we approached enterprise sales. I remember the exact moment everything started to unravel. My fingers trembled slightly as I logged into our CRM system for one final review. The loading screen spun longer than usual. Then, nothing. A blank screen where 1,000 meticulously crafted customer profiles should have been. My heart dropped into my stomach as I refreshed the page. Still nothing. No, 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 I whispered, my voice catching in my throat. I checked the backup servers, empty. The cloud storage, wiped clean. 8 months of behavioral analytics, purchase patterns, personalized engagement strategies all gone. I knew immediately who was behind this. Harold Monroe, my direct supervisor and the man who'd made my professional life increasingly difficult ever since CEO Patricia Kern had taken notice of my work. Harold was old school, the kind of sales director who believed in golf course deals and liquid lunches. He'd built his career on charm and connections, not data and innovation. When Patricia asked me to present my system directly to the board, bypassing Harold's usual stranglehold on department communications, I'd seen something dark flicker across his face. The previous weeks had been a masterclass in corporate sabotage. Harold had started small scheduling, urgent meetings that conflicted with my data collection sessions, reassigning my best team members to his pet projects, spreading rumors that I'd been poaching leads from other departments. I'd weathered it all, thinking his petty jealousy would burn itself out. I'd underestimated him. My phone buzzed. A text from Harold. Running a bit late this morning. Can you cover the pre-meeting brief? Thanks, superstar. The emoji made my skin crawl. He was setting himself up with an alibi, making sure he was nowhere near the office when I discovered the deletion. Classic Harold, always thinking 3 moves ahead, always making sure his fingerprints were nowhere to be found. I slumped in my chair, staring at the empty screen. The presentation was at 10 a.m. It was now 6:45. I had just over 3 hours to either reconstruct 8 months of work or watch my career implode while Harold swooped in to save the day with whatever bastardized version of my project he'd prepared. That's when I remembered the snapshot. 2 months ago, I'd run a diagnostic export of raw data to my personal laptop, a violation of company policy. But I'd needed to work on predictive modeling from home. The data was there, uncleaned and unstructured, but it was there. My hands shook as I pulled my laptop from my bag and powered it on. The file was buried deep in a folder labeled Tax Documents 2024. My paranoid attempt at security through obscurity. 47 megabytes of pure, beautiful CSV chaos. Customer names, contact information, interaction histories, purchase data. It was all there, just not in any usable format. I had 2.5 hours to transform this digital haystack into a polished, presentation-ready system that would convince a room full of executives to revolutionize our entire sales approach. I cracked my knuckles and got to work. First, I needed to parse the data. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I wrote Python script after Python script. Import pandas. Read CSV. Handle the endless encoding errors that come with hastily exported data. Each successful data frame was a small victory. Each error message a puzzle to solve. The customer names were there but formatted inconsistently. Some had middle initials, some didn't. Company names were abbreviated differently across entries. I wrote regex patterns to standardize everything. my brain operating on pure adrenaline and muscle memory from countless late nights debugging code. By 7:30, I had the basic structure rebuilt. But structure wasn't enough. The board would want to see the insights, the patterns that made my system revolutionary. I needed to reconstruct the behavioral analytics, the purchase prediction models, the engagement optimization algorithms. My phone rang. Harold's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. "Hey, Emily, just checking you got my text. I'm stuck in traffic, absolute nightmare out here. You've got the pre-meeting covered, right? I know you've been working so hard on your little project. Can't wait to see what you've put together." His voice dripped with false concern. Little project. The condescension made my blood boil, but it also fueled my determination. I turned my phone face down and refocused on the screen. The engagement metrics were the hardest to reconstruct. I'd spent months fine-tuning algorithms that predicted optimal contact timing based on client behavior patterns. The raw data had timestamps, but no derived insights. I had to rebuild the entire analytical framework from scratch. My fingers cramped as I coded, sweat beaded on my forehead despite the aggressive air conditioning. I was vaguely aware of coworkers starting to arrive, their cheerful morning conversations a surreal soundtrack to my desperate race against time. At 8:15, I hit a wall. The purchase prediction model required historical data that wasn't in my snapshot. Without it, a crucial component of my presentation would be missing. Harold would pounce on that gap like a wolf on wounded prey. Then I remembered Marcus Chen from IT. We'd become friends over late-night troubleshooting sessions. He'd given me legacy admin access to the old CRM system months ago when we were migrating data. The old system which Harold wouldn't have thought to purge. I practically ran to the IT department. Marcus was at his desk, oversized coffee mug in hand, 3 monitors glowing with code. "Marcus, I need a favor, a huge one." He took one look at my face and set down his coffee. "What do you need?" "Access to the legacy CRM, the historical purchase data from the last 2 years. Can you get it?" He glanced around the empty IT department, then nodded. "Give me 5 minutes." Those 5 minutes felt like hours. I paced the small space between server racks, my mind racing through the remaining tasks. Even with the historical data, I'd need to integrate it with my reconstructed database, run the predictive models, and create compelling visualizations all in less than 90 minutes. Marcus handed me a USB drive. "Everything from January 2023 to the migration date. Emily." "What's going on?" Harold deleted my project data. All of it. His eyes widened. "That bastard. Do you need—" "I need to get back to my desk. Thank you." "Marcus, I owe you dinner. Hell, I owe you a dozen dinners." The integration process was delicate. One wrong merge and I'd corrupt everything I'd rebuilt. I created backup after backup, my paranoia in overdrive. The historical data slotted in beautifully. And suddenly my prediction models came alive. Customer lifetime value projections, churn risk assessments, upsell opportunity matrices, it was all there. 9:00 a.m., 1 hour left. The visualization phase was where my system would either shine or fall flat. The board didn't want to see raw numbers. They wanted to see the story those numbers told. I pulled up Tableau and started creating dashboards. Revenue projection curves that swooped upward. Customer satisfaction metrics that put us ahead of every competitor. ROI calculations that would make even the most skeptical CFO take notice. My desk phone rang. The boardroom extension. "Emily, it's Patricia. We're gathering in conference room A. Will you be joining us for the pre-meeting?" Harold's pre-meeting, where he'd no doubt expressed concern about my preparedness, planting seeds of doubt before my presentation. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. Patricia? Just putting the finishing touches on something special." "Wonderful. Harold mentioned you might be running late with some technical difficulties." "Technical difficulties?" I almost laughed. "All resolved. See you soon." I had one last card to play. Our biggest client, Richardson Industries, had been part of my pilot program. Their CFO, Janet Richardson, had personally told me how our new engagement strategy had improved their satisfaction with our services. I pulled up my email and typed quickly. Janet, I hope this finds you well. As discussed, I'm presenting our customer relationship intelligence system to the board in 45 minutes. Would you be willing to send a brief testimonial about your experience to Patricia Kern? Your endorsement would mean the world. Best, Emily. I hit send and prayed Janet was at her desk. The final pieces came together at 9:30. I had a fully functional demonstration environment with 1,000 customer records, complete analytics, and compelling visualizations. It wasn't quite the polished masterpiece I'd planned to show, but it was real, it was powerful, and it was mine. I uploaded everything to a secure cloud server, 3 different backups this time, and grabbed my laptop. My reflection in the bathroom mirror showed a woman who looked like she'd run a marathon. I splashed cold water on my face, straightened my blazer, and headed to conference room A. The pre-meeting was already in session. Harold stood at the head of the table, laser pointer in hand, gesturing at a PowerPoint slide. My slide. My chart showing customer segmentation analysis. But with the data points slightly shifted, the conclusions subtly altered to be less impressive. As you can see, Harold was saying, the preliminary work shows promise, but I'm concerned about the scalability. In my experience, sorry I'm late, I announced, entering the room with more confidence than I felt. Harold's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: surprise, annoyance, and finally, a forced smile. Emily. We were just discussing your project. I was sharing some of the high-level concepts with the team. Patricia Kern studied me carefully. Harold mentioned you were having technical difficulties. All resolved. I set my laptop on the table. In fact, I've made some significant improvements to the system this morning. Real-time data integration that wasn't possible with our standard infrastructure. Harold's eye twitched. Improvements, Emily. I reviewed the system last night, and... You reviewed it last night. I kept my voice innocent. That's interesting. I didn't realize you had access to my secured development environment. The room went quiet. Patricia's eyes narrowed slightly. Harold recovered quickly. I meant I reviewed the documentation you shared last week. The project summary. Ah, of course. I smiled. Well, that summary is now outdated. The live system has evolved significantly. Patricia checked her watch. The full board arrives in 15 minutes. Emily, are you prepared to present? Absolutely. Excellent. Harold, thank you for the overview. Let's reconvene in the main boardroom. As the room emptied, Harold lingered. When we were alone, his mask finally slipped. I don't know what you think you're doing, he hissed, but that system is departmental property. Any presentation should go through me. Funny thing about departmental property, I replied, pulling up my email. It shouldn't be deleted from departmental servers without authorization. His face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. I have the access logs, Harold. It keeps records of everything. That was a bluff. I hadn't had time to pull logs, but Harold didn't know that. He straightened his tie, a nervous gesture I'd seen 100 times before. You're making a mistake, Emily. I've been in this business for 20 years. I know how to play this game. That's the problem. Harold, you're playing games. I'm building the future. My phone buzzed. An email from Janet Richardson, CC'd to Patricia Kern and the entire board. The subject line read, Enthusiastic endorsement of Nova Reach CRI system. I showed Harold my phone screen. His face went from pale to ashen. Excuse me, I said. I have a presentation to deliver. The main boardroom was intimidating on the best of days. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the mahogany table could seat 20. Today, every seat was filled, board members, department heads, and 2 representatives from our biggest competitor who were considering a merger. This wasn't just a presentation, it was an audition for the future of the company. Patricia introduced me, and I noticed Harold had positioned himself at the back of the room, arms crossed, waiting for me to fail. I began with confidence I didn't entirely feel. Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that we're currently utilizing only 23% of the valuable data we collect from every customer interaction? Heads turned, I had their attention. For the past 8 months, I've been developing and testing a system that doesn't just store customer information, it learns from it, predicts with it, and most importantly, generates revenue from it. I pulled up my first dashboard. The visualization showed our current sales funnel next to the optimized version my system enabled. The difference was stark. This isn't theoretical, I continued. We've been running a pilot program with select clients, including Richardson Industries. I clicked to Janet's testimonial, which I'd integrated into my presentation during the walk from the pre-meeting. Her words filled the screen. Nova Reach's CRI system has transformed how we engage with vendors. The predictive insights have helped us anticipate needs we didn't even know we had. It's not just customer service, it's customer partnership. Board members were leaning forward now, genuinely interested. I walked them through the technical architecture, the behavioral analytics, the ROI projections. Every question they asked, I had data to answer. Real data. My data. 30 minutes in, Harold made his move. This is all very impressive, Emily, he said, his voice carrying false concern. But I have to ask about data integrity. How can we be sure these numbers are accurate? Some of these client records seem incomplete. It was a clever attack. He knew I'd reconstructed the data under pressure. He was betting I'd made mistakes. An excellent question. Harold, I pulled up a new screen. Data integrity is paramount, which is why I've implemented triple verification protocols. Every record in this system has been validated through 3 separate sources: our internal databases, direct client confirmation, and third-party verification through our integration partners. I clicked through to a detailed audit log. For example, here's Richardson Industries record, initial data capture on March 15th, behavioral pattern analysis updated weekly, purchase history verified against accounting records, and, I paused for effect, confirmed directly by their CFO this morning at 9:47 a.m. Gasps rippled through the room. I'd just revealed that I'd been in contact with our biggest client that morning, securing their endorsement while supposedly struggling with technical difficulties. Harold's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. I still have concerns about... Actually, Patricia interrupted. I'd like to understand more about the predictive modeling. Emily, can you show us a live demonstration? This was the moment I'd been preparing for. I connected to the live system and pulled up our prospect database. Let's take a real example, I said, selecting a potential client we'd been courting for months. Meridian Technologies. Traditional sales approach says they're not ready to buy. They haven't responded to our last 3 outreach attempts. But watch what happens when we apply behavioral analysis. The algorithm processed in real time, analyzing dozens of data points. The result flashed on screen: 87% purchase probability within 30 days. Recommended approach: technical demonstration focusing on integration capabilities. This seems too good to be true, one board member said. I thought the same thing, I admitted. So I tested it. 3 weeks ago, the system identified 5 companies as high-probability conversions despite showing no traditional buying signals. I personally reached out to all 5 with customized approaches based on the system's recommendations. I clicked to the next slide. 4 of the 5 have since signed contracts. The 5th is in final negotiations. Combined value $3.2 million in new business. The room erupted in excited conversation. Board members were pulling out phones, whispering to assistants, recalculating projections. I caught Patricia's eye, and she gave me the slightest nod of approval. Harold made one last desperate attempt. This all sounds wonderful, but implementing a system like this company-wide would require resources we don't have. The training alone would take 2 weeks. I finished. I've already developed the training modules, created implementation guidelines, and identified team leaders in each region who can champion the rollout. The system is designed to be intuitive. Our pilot users report an average learning curve of 3 days. How is that possible? Harold sputtered. A system this complex isn't complex for the end user, I said. That's the beauty of good design. All the complexity is in the back end, where I handle it. the sales team sees only what they need: clear insights and actionable recommendations. Patricia stood up. I think we've seen enough to make a decision. Emily, this is extraordinary work. I'd like to fast-track implementation across all departments. There's one more thing, I said, my heart pounding. This was the moment I'd been building toward. Given the sensitive nature of customer data and the competitive advantage this system provides, I recommend implementing new security protocols, specifically, audit trails for any data deletion or modification. I clicked to my final slide, a security dashboard showing access logs, modification histories, and deletion records. For example, I continued, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. This morning at 3:47 a.m., someone with director-level credentials accessed the system and attempted to delete the entire customer database. The room went dead silent. Every eye turned to Harold. Fortunately, I said, I had implemented redundant backup protocols. The data was recovered, and the system is now more secure than ever. But it does raise questions about who would want to sabotage a project that could generate millions in new revenue. Harold's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Patricia's expression had gone from impressed to furious. Harold, she said, her voice dangerously quiet. My office, now. As Harold shuffled out, avoiding everyone's gaze, Patricia turned back to me. Emily, I apologize for what you've clearly been dealing with. Your position in this company is about to change significantly. We'll discuss details after I handle this situation. The next hour was a blur of congratulations, questions, and excited planning. Board members wanted to know about expansion possibilities, integration timelines, international applications. I answered everything, riding high on adrenaline and vindication. When the room finally cleared, I slumped in my chair, exhausted but victorious. My phone had been buzzing nonstop with messages from colleagues who'd heard about the presentation. But one message stood out from Marcus in IT. Heard Harold's been escorted out by security. Also heard you're getting his job plus a new title, VP of Sales Innovation. Dinner's on you for the next dozen times. Congrats, Emily. You earned this. I stared out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city below. 8 months ago, I'd been just another sales analyst with big dreams and bigger ideas. Harold had tried to crush those dreams, to steal my work and destroy my career. He'd almost succeeded. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated me. He thought I was just another young professional he could bulldoze. He didn't realize I was someone who backed up everything, who built systems with redundancy, who could reconstruct 8 months of work in 2 desperate hours. Most importantly, he didn't understand that in the modern business world, innovation beats intimidation every time. My computer chimed with a new email from Patricia. Emily, please join me for lunch. We have much to discuss about your new role and the future of Nova Reach. P.S. HR will need a full report on this morning's data incident. I trust you kept detailed records. I smiled, pulling up the actual access logs I'd grabbed while the board was deliberating. Every keystroke Harold had made was there in black and white, including the deletion commands he thought were untraceable. Oh yes, I said to the empty boardroom. I keep excellent records. As I gathered my laptop and headed to Patricia's office, I thought about Harold, probably cleaning out his desk under security supervision. Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy. He'd spent 20 years building his career, and he'd destroyed it in 3 hours of jealousy and spite. But mostly, I felt proud. Not just because I'd saved my project or exposed Harold's sabotage. I was proud because I'd proven something important: that merit beats malice, that innovation beats intimidation. And that sometimes, the best revenge isn't destroying your enemy, it's succeeding so spectacularly that their attempts to stop you become nothing more than a footnote in your success story. The elevator doors opened to the executive floor, and I stepped out into my new future. Harold had tried to delete my data, but instead, he deleted himself from the company's future. And I had 8 months of backed-up brilliance ready to transform Nova Reach into the industry leader I knew it could be. As Patricia's assistant ushered me into the CEO's office, I took one last look at my phone. The Richardson Industries deal had officially closed another $500,000 in revenue directly attributable to my system. Harold had spent so much energy trying to tear me down that he'd never bothered to actually understand what I was building. His loss, Nova Reach's gain, and my vindication. The door closed behind me, and my new chapter began.